Assalamu alaikum, welcome to 168 Hours, your weekly roundup of the top local stories. I am Fatma Zain Arifat, your host for the evening. Stay tuned. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz announces that the Maldives plans to introduce a modern smart ID card within the next 18 months, allowing citizens to carry out financial transactions and access a wide range of public services using a single card. The government is pursuing a major digital transformation agenda, including integrating services provided by different state institutions onto a single platform. More than 272,000 Maldivians aged 10 and above are already using the country's digital ID system, representing around 80% of the eligible population. Speaking on the third episode of PSM News Nation Chat podcast, President Muiz said the government was undertaking extensive efforts to digitalize key sectors and public services. As part of the initiative, the existing national identity card system will be upgraded into a digital smart ID card. He said the government aims to roll out the new ID card within the next 18 months. The card will not only serve as proof of identity but also support financial transactions and provide access to a range of digital services. President Muiz reiterated the government's goal of expanding the digital economy so that it contributes 15% of the country's economic output by 2030. He said the initiative forms part of his broader vision of transforming the Maldives into a developed nation. According to the president, once the digital transformation is complete, all government services will be accessible online from anywhere in the country, making them more convenient for citizens. To achieve this objective, the government has identified three key priorities: establishing a modern digital identity system with a strong protection of personal data, creating a secure platform that enables government institutions to exchange information efficiently, and strengthening cybersecurity to protect digital systems from cyber attacks. The planned enhancements to the existing EFAS digital identity system are also expected to address many of the concerns currently raised by users, while delivering a more secure and efficient digital service. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz says that a proposed constitutional amendment to reserve a specific number of seats in the parliament for young people and women would help end their long-standing underrepresentation in elected office. The president made the remarks during an appearance on PSM News Nation Chat podcast, where he highlighted the government's efforts to strengthen the political participation of young people and women. He said that while the legal framework already provides equal opportunities for all citizens, young people and women continue to be underrepresented in elections. Although candidates from both groups contest parliamentary seats, they are often unsuccessful at the ballot boxes, making reform necessary. President Muiz said he intends to introduce a constitutional amendment to reserve a fixed proportion of parliament seats for young people and another proportion for women. Responding to the criticism of the proposal, the president said equal opportunities already exist in law, but the outcome in elections tells a different story. The president added that although efforts had been made within the party system to create greater opportunities for women, meaningful progress would only be achieved through a quota system in parliament. He also stressed that young people should have a genuine voice in national affairs and be actively involved in the country's governance. He said the establishment of the Youth Parliament was intended to provide the opportunity, describing it as one of the strongest platforms available for youth participation. President Muiz further said that he envisions the Youth Parliament meeting during recesses of the Parliament, allowing young representatives from all 93 constituencies to deliberate on national issues and contribute ideas that could inform the parliamentary work. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz announces that over 100 experts will be appointed to the National Advisory Council. During his Independence Day speech, President Muiz announced plans to establish a Presidential Advisory Council comprising recipients of national honors and a National Advisory Council consisting of experts and scholars to provide guidance on key national issues. He also emphasized the importance of drawing upon the experience of distinguished individuals in the national decision-making. Speaking on PSM's Nation Chat podcast, the president said there are multiple experienced individuals and former senior officials, and noted that the government's wishes to give them a formal role in advising the government on national affairs and contributing to policy discussions. The members of the National Advisory Council will comprise experts from a wide range of fields, including education and teaching, health and public health, food and agriculture, economics, social affairs, foreign affairs, and other professional sectors. The President said the Council could have between 100 to 150 members. Members will provide advice on national issues, recommend reforms, and contribute their expertise at the President's request or on their own initiative. Other state institutions may also seek the Council's advice. The President said procedures to establish both councils are being finalized, and they are expected to be formed within 3 months. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz notes during an appearance on the PSM News program Nation Chat that formulation of the National Development Master Plan is nearly complete, and the administration's target is to bring equitable development to every region.
The policy focuses on decentralized development across all islands rather than concentrating growth within Malé. President Muizu asserted during the first 2 years and 8 months of the current administration, 590 projects across various sectors have been completed. By contrast, the former Maldivian Democratic Party administration completed 285 projects over a comparable duration, while the administration preceding it finalized 321. Work is currently progressing on 1,635 projects, exceeding past volumes. During equivalent periods, the previous administration carried out 414 projects, while the administration prior executed 355. Development initiatives are advancing through a structured roadmap with implementation over the next 2 years, mapped alongside cash flow management, budgetary allocation, loan servicing, and debt repayment. Addressing community facilities, President Muizu noted that completing children's park and outdoor gyms across every island is something that has never been achieved before, adding that fitness and waste management centers will be finalized well before 26th July 2028. Statistics were disclosed during his Independence Day address. The President said, "The initial master plan draft is nearly complete, with the sectoral stakeholder validation workshop planned ahead of a November release. Manifesto provisions are being implemented to expand gross domestic product and secure the Mauritius transition into developed status by 2040.
The Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises announces that as of 23rd July, the state had collected $1.56 billion in revenue and grants equivalent to 60% of the projected $2.62 billion for the fiscal year.
This figure represents a 10.9% increase over the same period in 2025, driven largely by a rise in tax receipts. Tax revenue alone climbed to $1.19 billion, up 12.1% from the previous year. Within the tax base, the Goods and Services Tax (GST) remained the largest contributor, delivering $648.51 million, a 9.7% gain year-on-year. The GST breakdown shows strong performance in both its components. General GST rose 13.6% to $201.04 million, while Tourism GST increased 8% to $447.47 million, marking the highest growth among tax categories. On the expenditure side, total recurrent and capital spending reached $1.65 billion, up 19.7% compared with the same period last year. The increase reflects higher outlays for civil servant salaries and wages, 9.5% to $551.23 million. The National Health Insurance Scheme Asanda, 14.8% to $77.82 million, and subsidies, which surged 79% to $207.52 million amid global oil and commodity price spikes linked to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Despite the robust revenue growth, the fiscal balance shows a primary surplus of $97.28 million, but an overall deficit of $90.79 million.
The Minister of Education, Higher Education and Skills Development, Dr. Ismail Shafiu, reveals that one of the government's foremost objectives is to foster a patriotic, united and happy community across the Maldives. Speaking as a guest of honor at the award ceremony for Independence Day Art and Photography competition, jointly organized by the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Heritage and the National Center for Arts, Minister Ismail Shafiu emphasized the pivotal role such events play in nurturing national pride among students. Reflecting on the artwork and photographs on display, the minister said that by commemorating the heroes who secured Maldives' independence, the government is instilling a sense of duty and reverence that is essential for building a cohesive society. Minister Ismail Shafiu highlighted recent governmental initiatives aimed at honoring public servants and revitalizing the national spirit, urging students to emulate the sacrifices of their forebears. The minister also warned against derogatory remarks concerning national heroes, appealing to schools, parents, and the wider public to protect the legacy of those who fought for the country's freedom. He called for educational programs that teach students about the noble service and sacrifices of Moldovan patriots, ensuring that the spirit of independence endures for future generations. Hina Walid, the Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage, says significant work can be done to commemorate the memories of national struggles through competitions such as art and photography. The minister spoke at a ceremony held to announce the results of a competition organized jointly with the National Center for the Arts on Independence Day. The primary objective of such contests, Minister Hina explained, is to revive the meaning of freedom and recall the culture, heritage, and ancestral sacrifices of the Maldives. Noting strong public enthusiasm, she announced plans to expand the event next year with enhanced prizes. The art competition was structured across 3 age brackets, ages 10 to 15, 16 to 20, and 21 and above. A total of 74 drawings were submitted, comprising 31 entries in the youngest group, 28 in the middle, and 15 in the senior tier. Participation in the photography contest was open to individuals aged 16 and older, drawing 90 entrants. The top 3 victors in both categories received certificates and cash awards of $648.51 for first place, $389.11 for second, and $194.55 for third. The top 10 drawings from each category and 10 photographs were displayed in an exhibition. Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, Dr. Abdullah Muttalib, calls for revenue collected as vehicle fees in the Greater Malé region to be deducted from the Malé City Council budget and transferred to the government.
While responding to a question from Machangoli Central Member of Parliament Ahmad Zamir, Minister Dr. Muttalib addressed the MP's observation that the Council's most recently announced budget projected annual revenue of between $8.43 million and $9.08 million from vehicle fees collected in Malé. Responding to the question, Minister Dr. Muttalib said Malé City Council receives approximately $9.73 million annually in vehicle fees from Malé and Hurumale. However, he said the council was not carrying out the adequate road repair works. The minister said responsibility for developing roads had been assigned to the council. He added that when permission was granted to cut through a road paved by the government, the council lacked the capacity to restore the damaged section after the work was completed. Minister Dr. Muttalib said the ministry had prepared and sent the council standard guidelines detailing how roads should be cut for different purposes and how the affected areas should subsequently be repaired. He said the council's failure to develop the capacity to produce and lay asphalt for road repairs despite receiving $9.73 million appeared to be a failure to fulfill its responsibility. He added that it was necessary to determine where the money was being spent. The minister said he did not believe that $9.73 million collected annually in vehicle fees should be received by Malé City Council. He called for the amount to be deducted from the council's budget and transferred to the government budget. Minister Dr. Muttalib said that if the $9.73 million were received by the government, roads could also be properly developed.
Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation Mohammed Amin says the Maldives is working to conclude 2 additional air service agreements aimed at increasing tourist arrivals and expanding international air connectivity.
Speaking in an exclusive interview with PSM News, Minister Amin outlined the government's ongoing efforts to strengthen the country's tourism sector through expanded aviation links. The minister said the government's objective is to make full use of the traffic rights available to the Maldives under existing air service agreements. While a number of factors had prevented this from being fully realized in the past, he said efforts are now underway to maximize those opportunities. Referring to the ongoing work, Amin said negotiations are underway on 2 more air service agreements. He described the talks as major undertakings that require time, but said he was satisfied with the pace of progress, adding that tangible results are expected before long. Air service agreements are bilateral or multilateral agreements that set the framework for commercial flights between countries. For island nations such as the Maldives, these agreements are particularly important as the tourism industry relies heavily on international air connectivity. Such agreements determine which foreign airlines can operate in the Maldives, the number of seats that are permitted to offer, and the markets they can serve. They are also expanded over time to improve access from key tourism source markets and increase visitor arrivals. Most recently, the Maldives signed an air service agreement with Ethiopia, marking the 6th such agreement with an African country. The agreement paves the way for direct flights between Addis Ababa and the Maldives. The Maldives has also concluded an agreement with Australia to facilitate direct services. Under the arrangement, the national carrier Maldivian has already begun operating direct flights to Australia.
President Dr. Mohammad Muiz says that prosperous nations are built by strengthening transparency and maintaining a strong commitment to innovation.
The president made these remarks while addressing the closing ceremony of the Small Island Developing States Supreme Audit Institutions or SIDS SAI Symposium and the opening of the Interside Development Initiative or IDI Global Summit. President Dr. Muiz said that the foundation of genuine prosperity lies in strong institutions and that prosperity is strengthened through responsible financial management and transparent governance. He added that public trust in government is what sustains prosperity, making the role of state audit institutions critically important. The president also emphasized that every contribution to the state's finances by citizens and development partners must be spent for its intended purpose. He noted that accountability is not merely an administrative obligation, but a fundamental pillar of national progress. He further stated that in order to secure prosperous nations, strong democracies, resilient economies, and hopeful societies for future generations, countries must work with sincerity to enhance transparency, strengthen accountability, uphold openness, and remain firmly committed to innovation. Highlighting the challenges facing small island developing states, or SIDS, President Muiz said that many of these countries are managing debt while continuing to invest in their future. He noted that they must also be prepared to respond to unexpected crises while maintaining long-term development plans. At the same time, they face the challenge of sustaining economic growth while protecting vulnerable communities. The president further said that despite global uncertainty and external pressures, the Maldives remains committed to investing in its future while continuing to meet its financial obligations. Speaking about the future of governance, President Muiz said that digital transformation offers solutions to many of the challenges faced by countries such as the Maldives. In this regard, he said that the government's Maldives 2.0 initiative will help build a modern, citizen-centered digital state that delivers more accessible and efficient public services.
Construction work commences on the project to develop 50 housing units in Alif Alif Ukuras, with Altec Maldives Private Limited contracted to carry out the project, which was launched during President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's visit to the island.
The foundation stone for the project was laid at a special ceremony held in Ucolas by Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development Dr. Abdullah Muttalib and Altec Maldives Private Limited Manager Ibrahim Azim. Representatives of the Island Council and local institutions, as well as members of the public, attended the ceremony. The project was awarded to Altec Maldives on the 6th of November 2025. The company has been given 1 year and 7 months to complete the work. The 50 housing units being developed in Ucolas will each have 3 bedrooms. In addition to the housing units being developed in the reclaimed areas of Ucolas, President Dr. Mohamed Muiz announced during a visit to the island in August 2025 that 250 land plots would also be allocated from the reclaimed land. The housing project is being implemented in the reclaimed area of Ucolas. A total of 13 hectares of land was reclaimed from the island in 2023. Ucolas has a population of approximately 1,200 people. As part of ongoing development initiatives in Ucolas, a contractor has also been appointed to establish a 5-ton ice plant on the island. The ice plant project was awarded to Lehi Construction and Trading Private Limited. The agreement was signed on behalf of the Ministry of Fisheries, Agriculture and Ocean Resources by State Minister Mohamed Muttalib.
The government gazettes regulations governing the allocation of land for non-residential purposes under the Land Act, establishing the procedures to be followed when allocating such land. The regulations have been issued under the Land Act and set out the procedures applicable to land allocated or assigned by councils, ministries, and other state institutions for purposes other than residential use. The Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development will be responsible for implementing the regulations. Among the objectives of the regulations are to establish procedures relating to the allocation of land, define the principles governing the land allocation, set out the process for issuing land registration documents, and specify rights relating to land. The regulations also define responsibilities of land recipients and the procedures for entering into agreements. Under the regulations, land will be allocated or assigned in accordance with the policies determined by the President under Article 3A of the Land Act, where the land falls within the jurisdiction of a local council and is owned by that council. The allocation or assignment will be carried out by the relevant council. All other land will be allocated or assigned by the ministry. The regulations state that the minimum lease rent for land, the minimum sale price of land, the maximum lease rent for land allocated for public services, and the value of land reserved for the government will be determined by a land valuation committee established by the President under Article 9 of the regulations. When determining land values, the committee will consider the location of the land within an island or city, the level of economic activity and demand for land. The regulations provide a 9-member land evaluation committee representing relevant government institutions. The committee will include 1 representative from the ministry responsible for finance, 2 representatives from the ministry responsible for land administration, 1 representative each from the ministries responsible for economic affairs, fisheries, tourism, construction, and agriculture, and 1 representative from the local government authority. The chair of the Land Valuation Committee will be appointed by the President from among the committee's 9 members. The regulations also require the relevant council or ministry handling the transaction to maintain a register containing information on all land allocated or sold under the regulations. Land registers prepared before the regulations come into force will remain valid. However, all land registers must be updated within 6 months. The regulations also state that the responsibilities already delegated to local councils under the new framework will continue to be carried out by the respective councils. The Maldives Land Act was enacted in 2003. And that's all the news we have for you on 168 Hours. Thank you for watching.